welcome back to Nails Before Films. As I mentioned in my last video, I'm taking a break from superhero movies. Instead, I'll be going over the Alien franchise since Romulus is doing well in theaters. I've already reviewed the first Alien movie last year. The link for that is in the description and top right corner now. So in this video, I'll be reviewing the 3 sequels to Alien, which are Aliens, Alien 3, and Alien Resurrection. The title of this video applies to each sequel, respectively. I think Aliens is good, Alien 3 is surprisingly not bad, and Resurrection is a pretty generic horror sequel. Anyway, let's go over Aliens first. I watched the extended version of Aliens, and overall I think it's good. Granted, it's more of an action movie than a horror movie, but it is still pretty entertaining. Of course, the movie is not perfect. I'll go over what I don't like first. There are parts of the story that don't make sense to me. First of all, how come the company doesn't know about the Xenomorphs, and why haven't they tried to retrieve them in 57 years? In Alien, the company wants the Xenomorph, right? Then why are there no further attempts to do so in 57 years? Why are they acting like they've never even heard of such a creature until Ripley tells them about it? This actually leads me to my next question. Why would Ripley trust that the company plans on exterminating the Xenomorphs? They've already tried to get it at the expense of your entire crew in Alien. What makes you think they won't try it again? I know that Ripley is haunted by the Xenomorph and going on the mission gives her a chance to put an end to her nightmares, but come on, trusting the company is a terrible decision, especially if they actually know about the Xenomorphs all this time. Next, I'm not a fan of the ending. In Aliens, Ripley defeats the alien queen by forcing it out of an airlock, so basically the same thing as she did in Alien. However, it doesn't make much sense this time. In Alien, Ripley survives because she puts on a spacesuit before opening the airlock. However, in Aliens, she just holds on really tight. Seriously, that's it. That's enough for her to survive the fatal decompression. It makes no sense. How is that possible? And can you really not think of another way to defeat the final boss? The airlock thing works in the first movie because it makes sense and it seems like the only way to defeat an unkillable creature. But that's not the case in Aliens. It makes no sense and just seems like a meaningless throwback to the first movie because everybody loved it. I'm also not a fan of how killable the Xenomorphs are in Aliens. In Alien, they are the perfect organism. They can adapt to anything, making them practically unkillable. However, in Aliens, you can just shoot them. I get that because they're facing a swarm of Xenomorphs in Aliens, the humans need a fighting chance. But making the Xenomorphs so killable is just underwhelming and takes away the horror aspect of the Alien franchise. This leads me to my next complaint. Aliens is too much of an action movie than a horror movie. Although there are suspenseful moments, you already know it's going to be a Xenomorph and it's not scary at all. The first movie is very successful in creating an eerie atmosphere, and it's a shame that Aliens didn't inherit that. The deaths are also disappointing. Most of the military guys are killed quickly or off screen, and they're less memorable than the Nostromo crew. The ones who survived the first encounter are okay, but the rest are honestly just meatbags. Anyway, the biggest disappointment of Aliens for me is Burke's death. The guy is the real villain in this movie. He even tries getting Ripley and a little girl killed. However, he's just killed off screen by a Xenomorph. It's so anticlimactic. I was so looking forward to him dying in a violent, gory way. And I honestly don't get why Ripley doesn't allow the others to kill him. The guy is a huge threat and even a bigger asshole. Why not just waste him and pretend the Xenomorphs did it? She says something like he needs to go back and do what? Just kill him already. Anyway, that's what I don't like about Aliens. My thoughts on the movie improve significantly if I see it as an action movie instead of a horror movie. I still don't like how killable the Xenomorphs are, but the actions are cool and the special effects are impressive. I do like the concept of trained soldiers against the aliens. In the first movie, Nostromo is just a commercial vehicle and its crew are severely under-equipped to go against an unkillable creature. It's interesting to see how the military would fare against the Xenomorphs. However, my favorite part about Aliens is actually the characters. Despite most of the military guys are just meatbags and how unprofessional they are before the mission, I do like how tight they are as a team and you can tell they care about each other. I even like Hudson, who's a coward at first, but mans up in the end and is actually useful. The movie tries to give all surviving members some sort of development and significance. Granted, some aren't done that well, like how Gorman is out for most of the movie and returns just to sacrifice himself and Vasquez to help the others escape. But I appreciate the effort to make them more than meatbags. I absolutely love the surviving members of Aliens and their relationship with Ripley. Not only did Ripley lose the entire crew of Nostromo, but she also lost her daughter during her 57 years of stasis. The part about Ripley's daughter really hits hard and shows that she's just an ordinary person like you and me. She has people she cares about, and what happened to her in Alien is more than unfortunate. I love how compassionate Ripley is in Aliens. Maybe it's because she doesn't want to lose everyone like she did in Nostromo, but she tries her best to save people, even if it puts her in danger. And we feel happy for her when her efforts pay off and she finds a family again with Hicks, Bishop, and Newt. I love the hinted romance between Ripley and Hicks. It's very mild. They don't kiss or anything, which makes sense since they're in a very serious life and death situation. They just respect and appreciate each other, and I love that. I also like Bishop a lot. He represents how Ripley learns to trust again. Throughout the film, Ripley doesn't trust Bishop, but he proves through his actions that he actually cares about the team. I was really surprised when Bishop volunteered to fix the transmitter so that they could escape. Ripley and Bishop don't interact much in the movie, but it's nice to see Ripley warm up to him in the end. Lastly, there's Newt. I think Newt reminds Ripley of both her daughter and herself. Newt is a survivor like her, and they've both seen the horror of the aliens. By saving Newt, Ripley is helping herself as well. Although going back to save Newt is logically a stupid decision, you can understand why it's so important to Ripley. Even though I'm a bit iffy about the decision to make the sequel of Alien an action movie, I still very much enjoyed watching Aliens because of the impressive visuals and character development. Unfortunately, Alien3 throws all of that out of the window. Oh, you thought it was nice for Ripley to find a family? Too bad, they're all dead now. The concept of Alien3 is a huge FU to people who like aliens. I don't like it either, but it didn't offend me as much because I expected it. I've seen enough bad horror sequels where survivors of the last movie get killed almost instantly. So I'm not that outraged by it. Don't get me wrong, I don't like it at all. I think it's stupid, but emotionally I wasn't fazed because it was predictable. Besides, I heard that Alien 3 is a terrible movie. Even the director disowned it, so it was no surprise that it desecrated aliens. Speaking of which, because of how notoriously bad Alien 3 was, I went in with zero expectations. I watched the assembly cut and it was better than I expected. It's not a great movie by any means, but it's a nice end to Ripley's story if you see the first 3 movies as a trilogy. Anyway, let's go over what I don't like first. From what I know, the assembly cut is quite different from the theatrical release and it fills in some plot holes. I don't know about the theatrical release, but the assembly cut is coherent. At least I know what's going on. However, it does feel a bit too long. The assembly cut is almost 2.5 hours, and it's pretty slow at first. It's also not scary. We all know what's going to happen. The alien will kill a few people. Only Ripley will know it's a xenomorph. Nobody will believe her at first. They'll then try to kill it without success. You know, the usual. I would say Alien 3 is more of a horror movie than Aliens, but it's still not scary. We know there's a xenomorph on the loose from the beginning of the movie, so the audience is just waiting for it to show up. There are also a few things still not explained in the assembly cut. I still don't get how an egg gets into their ship. We also never get to see it face hug the ox. And I don't know how nobody notices the face hugger when it's actually on the ox. For some reason, they only see it after the face hugger has come off. But overall, I would say the movie is coherent. Another thing I don't like about the movie is the xenomorph's redesign. The concept of a faster, more agile xenomorph could be interesting, but I really don't like how CGI heavy it is. The final fight is also confusing. I really don't know what's going on, just that a lot of people are running around and a lot of doors are closing. I get their plan, I just don't know if it's working or not. Similar to the military team in Aliens, Alien 3 has way too many inmates and most of them are just meatbags. I don't remember most of them. I couldn't even tell them apart when watching the movie. Now, there are things I like in Alien 3, mainly the ending. Despite how confusing the running around and closing door thing is, the cinematography is cool. I do like the shots that are from the Xenomorph's perspective. I also like how they defeated the alien. Finally, it's not an airlock. This time, they first try to melt it with hot lead, and when it doesn't work, they improvise by sprinkling it with cold water, causing the Xenomorph to explode from thermal shock. I feel like more thoughts are put into this than the airlock scene in Aliens. It's more creative, and I like how drastically different the setting is in Alien 3. Last time, Ripley was with the military and she had weapons and trained soldiers to help her. However, she's trapped with criminals this time and there are no weapons. All of them really have to work together and use their heads to kill this unkillable creature. Lastly, Alien 3 is a decent end to Ripley's character. Although the movie is not great, it's touching how Ripley sacrifices herself to ensure the Xenomorph's future dies with her. She's been tortured by these aliens for far too long, and it's bittersweet that she can finally rest, knowing that the Xenomorphs can terrorize humanity no more. If Alien 3 does anything right, it's that ending. Unfortunately, Alien Resurrection throws all of that out of the window. Oh, you thought it was nice for Ripley to sacrifice herself so that all Xenomorphs would die with her? Too bad, they clone her and the alien queen. How can they clone both Ripley and the parasite inside her? Whatever, future tech can do anything, I guess. Anyway, Resurrection happens 200 years after Alien 3. The military clones Ripley with the alien queen inside her. Again, they want to use the Xenomorphs as weapons, you know, the usual. Of course, things go terribly wrong, so Ripley has to team up with the crew of a pirate ship to escape and prevent the Xenomorphs from getting to Earth. Alien Resurrection is the most horror movie out of the 3 sequels, but it's more of a bad horror movie sequel. You know, the type from 80s horror, this one is 10 years too late. As someone who enjoys bad horror movies from the 80s, I had fun watching Alien Resurrection, but it's really not a good movie. It's your typical horror sequel that makes people go, why? It tries to do things differently in the worst possible way and copy elements from its predecessors but executes them poorly. Anyway, let's go over what I don't like about Resurrection first. Like I said, Resurrection is just a pretty generic horror sequel. It doesn't do anything exceptionally well, but it's not unwatchable either. It's filled with unmemorable characters who make stupid decisions. I don't remember most of the characters' names, and similar to Aliens and Alien 3, a lot of the characters are just there to be killed. You don't really know much about them. For example, the pirate ship's captain, his girlfriend, the military doctors, etc., etc. The characters also make some dumb decisions, like why would you bring someone who has an alien inside him? I know that you guys feel bad because you're the reason why it happened to him, but come on, do you really think the doctor who cloned Ripley and the alien queen would take it out and save him? He has no regard for human life. He only cares about the aliens. Why would you trust him? Just kill the guy. It's cruel, but why take the chance of bringing an alien with you guys? The military is dumb too. You know the aliens have acid blood. What makes you think you can keep them locked up and they adapt too? What makes you think they won't get used to your torture methods? It's so dumb. Besides the humans, I don't even like the Xenomorph in this movie that much. I don't get why the alien queen giving birth like humans makes her perfect. I thought the Xenomorphs were perfect enough already. Isn't that the whole point? And I don't get how the white newborn alien is better. The movie didn't show how it's better than usual Xenomorphs in any way. Speaking of the white newborn, it's freaking hideous. I hate it so much. This is what I'm talking about when I say Resurrection is a typical bad horror sequel. The newborn idea is so weird and stupid. It's obviously there for shock value. It makes no sense and it's not even scary. The original Xenomorphs are terrifying. Even the CGI one in Alien 3 is somewhat scary, but the newborn in Resurrection is just ugly. What, am I supposed to be scared by how hideous it is? I also hate how the newborn is killed in the end. Just stop with the airlock idea already. It worked in Alien because it was smart and made sense. But in Resurrection, the newborn died because Ripley made a teeny weeny hole in the window of their escape pod with her acid blood. It just gets sucked into that tiny hole and turns into goo or something. Yes, it looks as stupid as it sounds and it makes absolutely no sense. Can you actually not come up with a more creative way to kill the newborn? Even Alien 3 was able to pull that off. It's just so dumb. I hate the newborn so much. And its mommy issue is so annoying. But I do feel kind of bad for it because it's essentially betrayed by its mother. As much as I just complained about Alien Resurrection, I don't hate the movie. There are things I think the movie does decently. Some of the characters are okay, like Christy. I do like that just because they're pirates doesn't mean they're heartless. For example, one of the pirates is disabled, but instead of ditching him for a better chance of survival, Christy actually carries him when they need to swim. He eventually sacrifices himself, and that's the only character I feel bad for. I'm kind of surprised that the asshole guy survives, but it doesn't really matter. Cole is okay. I like how she's not Ripley 2.0, but the twist that she's a droid isn't all that surprising, and I find it to be a bit underwhelming. Like, really? Another droid twist? You guys can't come up with something else? Anyway, the most impressive character in Resurrection is definitely Ripley Clone 8. I like Weaver's portrayal of the clone a lot, although she embraces some of Ripley's traits and personalities. You can tell that she's not Ripley. She's somewhat confused about her purpose. She isn't as driven as Ripley, but in the end, she's as compassionate and can allow the Xenomorphs to survive, even if they are created through her. There are also some cool visuals in Resurrection. I really like the underwater scene. It's cool to see Xenomorphs swim. But other than that, Alien Resurrection isn't impressive when it comes to aesthetics. That's basically my thoughts on the 3 Alien sequels. My least favorite is Alien Resurrection, and my favorite is Aliens. I'm pleasantly surprised by Alien 3. I really don't think it's that bad. I'll probably do Alien vs. Predator next, and then the prequels after that. Anyway, hope you guys like my review and nails. I did a hatching alien egg and the alien queen. I'm not really happy about the alien queen. Hopefully, it's at least recognizable. Let me know what you think in the comments. As always, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, comment, share, do what you want. Follow me on other social media if you like. Links are in the description. Keep nailing it and don't have mommy issues like newborn people. It's really unattractive.